make sure that my family take care of me. So then he told you right there, no matter what happens, he's not gonna be sorry. But if you're like, dang, I'm off work.
I think it boils down more to not if a guy has a job, but his work ethic.
Yeah, but not only that, it gets bigger than that. And not to cut you off, work ethic, but you have to understand. Like I tell my family member, before you start to procreate, look at the family. Look at the mother, look at the father, look at the aunt, the sister.
I mean, but you can't always do that though, because
his mother left him when he was 16.
Right, it does count.
His mother left him when he was 16. So in certain areas, he doesn't know how to be a man. I had to be understanding of that. Like, okay, you know what? It's not a pass for let you go, but I have to understand that. You know what? I know certain things more, so let me try to help you or put you around my father more, who might be able to teach you those different things.
Right. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna need you to be a man and pull yourself together.
At the end of the day, yes. I'm gonna put tools in place, and what you decide to do with those tools is up to you. Now, you don't make those tools work, and we got.
But let's get to the motive of how do we get him to be that person and motivated? Because I think that sometimes from a lot of married people that I know, they've said that, oh, well, you know, if my wife is, let's be real, you know, in the bedroom laying it down, or even just you know taking care of me, she's doing what she needs to do, I'm going to be extra motivated to take care of her.
I got 3 kids. How much motivation you need? Okay? 3 kids. I'm laying it down. You got enough motivation.
You know what, though? I'm speaking as somebody who's not married at the moment. And I'm going to say that, laying down in the bedroom doesn't really hold anything down past those 10 minutes.
Anybody can lay over.
Because the thing about it is, and this is the part that we mess up with, and a lot of guys say this, we're not listening, though. When, we get into this whole, how can sex be bad? It's the same thing for y'all. We understand as women can say sex can be bad, but we don't understand how it can be bad for guys. Is what I'm saying, because we think it's the same thing over and over for them. But it's just like, after it's over, that 10 minutes euphoria before they fall asleep.
What's after that?
When they're out of work the next day, I don't know any guy who's saying, I'm gonna work this overtime because she gave it to me great last night. I don't know about that.
There's more to it than that.
But I think there is that piece where possibly they'll stop themselves from doing something that can mess up that household, because they're like, all right, you know what, maybe this might not even be worth what I already have. You never know. You know what I mean? It could be whatever. It could be whatever. I mean, sometimes it doesn't even matter. But it doesn't even matter. But, like I said, high fives on my side. It didn't matter. Yeah.
So, I wanted to ask you guys, do you think that it's okay? What are the pros and cons to you of living together before marriage?
Do you agree with it? Do you agree?
Okay. From my perspective, yes. And the only reason why I can say that is because I have lived through a personal situation where testing the water should have been done, and it was not, and come to find out something else. So yes, however, I know what the Bible says, I know what the Quran says, and granted, you shouldn't. I'm just keeping it real as a female.
I feel like I'm going to say my opinion, and I feel like, not even because the Bible says so, but because this is how I feel. Men are very stagnant, and if they're happy with something, that's it for them. They don't need to go above or below. If they're comfortable, that's good for them. And I feel like when you live with them, they're never, I think women move in with dudes to like be like, oh, he's gonna marry me. If you're cooking for him and you're cleaning his clothes and you're doing whatever you're living with him, why does he have to marry? Why buy a cow when you get the milk for free?
And what men always say, it's just a piece of paper. Why you need that piece of paper?
But you're already living the marriage. What do you need the house for?
Because I've done it, I can say this. That some guys actually who agree to the whole living with a woman before marriage piece, that's their test for you in a way. Because a lot of guys are not going to marry you unless they know that you can do those things. That's kind of, and that's just, I'm
so you feel like it's like a prerequisite?
No, I think it's a prerequisite for everyone.
It's a pre-prenup.
I think that it depends. Like, if you already go into, now with people who are doing it more the Christian way, I guess you can say, where they're, engaged first before moving in, I think that even, when you're going through your marriage counseling, whatever, I think that it should be allowed that a week, even if you're not staying in the same bed at night, whatever it may be, that there's a week that you get to see what it's like to live with that person, because that's a big piece That's a big piece.
But this is where the Christian is coming out of me. You need to have faith that God wouldn't place you with someone that you wouldn't be compatible with or wouldn't be able to live with.
You're choosing to marry them.
There are things that come up that, because you know what, there's a side of you that if you don't live with someone that they don't see every day. They don't see your dirty laundry, they don't see you in curlers, they don't see you, and it does come with the work, but then that first initial shock can change a relationship if you're not ready.
But I think you should have at least strategic weekends or something where you can kind of like spend some time together.
Right.
Maybe not necessarily living
You don't have to live together, but wait, I mean, it depends on where you are and what type of person that you are. But I mean, I've lived with the person for a long amount of time, and we made it work. You know what I mean? We actually became a little bit closer while we were living together. We learned a lot about each other while we were living together. But I can see we did have those moments where I was like, okay, I thought that the fact that we lived together hindered the fact that why are we not getting married yet? But the thing is, we were just kids.
Right.
We were young. That's the reason why we were getting married.
As far as me being a Christian and me being a woman that's serious about her worth, my thing is I can show you that I can give you that life that you want without cohabitating. Because like there are times where you come on my house, I cook dinner, I can cook. Or okay, you come, you see my room, I'm clean, so I can clean. You see the way I keep myself, how my hygiene is. You ain't smelling me cigarette. So my thing is, some things I believe that element of surprise after the wedding should be something beautiful and not something that you miss out on. Because my thing is, there are going to be things where it's going to be like, you really do that? But at the end of the day, if this is somebody that you feel like you can spend your life with, and that's why they say, and we learn the pre-marriage counseling at our church, and it's something very good that they teach you. Never marry somebody or even get into this long, drawn-out relationship with somebody with things that you expect to change. Because some things just may not change. So don't marry them saying like, if the drawers is on the floor, I'm leaving. No, you marry them saying, if they leave their drawers on the floor, can I take that?
Live with that, right?
If he never washes dishes, can I take that? If he's never going to do that, can I take that? And that's when you have to say, okay, I can live with you. So I think you need to put in your mind, not, what are you going to do? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? No, because there may be some kind of way when you're living together, but then after you get that piece of paper, then they still start to slack off. Even as women, we be like, oh my God, we walking through the house with heels and sequins at night, and but as soon as we get that piece of paper, it's like flannels and
that's right.
No,
how you got them?
How you got them like that? So I feel like if I don't think you need to meet them, I treat them how you meet them, and I don't think that you need to live together to show that person this is what I can bring to you. And yes, there are things that you're going to learn about me later, but that's the beauty of growing our lives together and progressing together. You don't know everything right now.
I mean, I think
we're learning each other together.
You'll learn me, and I'll learn you, and we'll be okay with that because I'm committed to your drawers on the floor.
But that's because of the fact, like everybody doesn't have a strong spiritual foundation. Like for me and my husband, we lived together. It was no ifs, ands, buts about it. I mean, we dated for a while or whatever before we moved in. But there was some pre-existing issues of why I had to move in. So for me, no, would I have just automatically moved in with him? No, I would have waited. You know what I'm saying? But you seem to have a strong spiritual foundation, which some women and some men don't have. So it's just like, oh, inside booty call, let's get it popping.
But you know,
I'm not. Even though I was quoting the Bible, I'll be the first to say that I am not the saint. You feel me?
No,
I've made my mistakes, but I do feel strongly. Like even on my worst day when I've committed a sin, like I will never move in because I don't feel like I said, I don't feel like that's gonna give them any motivation or initiative to want to marry me.
If you're doing it for that. I mean, like I said, the first time that I went into a situation like that, the first time I went into a situation like that, it was like, we had a discussion, it was like, right, you understand who my parents are, right? You understand my upbringing, right? You understand that I've been raised that this is not supposed to be the way it is, so if we're doing this, it's with an understanding that within 2 years, we're doing
we're going to make a long-term thing,
and 2 years turns to 4, turns to 6, it didn't work out that way. But, I think, like I wrote about this once also in my blog, it was called Courtship versus Dating. And I talked about the old way of how, you know, our parents did it. I served that my parents were like in an arranged marriage, but they really weren't. But you know how they do it in Jamaica, the old ways, whatever. When you meet at church, they separate you forever. When you're old enough to get married, you get it going. But, you know, and then now how we do it, I call it the Forrest Gump effect, where, you know, you are biting every piece of candy to make sure that, you know, because you to see what you're going to get.
You never know what's about chocolate.
And so I think that, you know, a lot of people right now, the generation that we're in, everybody's using the Forrest Gump effect. And I think, you know, you don't want to end up being the woman with a whole bunch of bites in you. That's where you kind of have to have your wall up or your understanding. I'm not gonna move in with every guy I say I love you to. I'm not going to make that stuff. But if you feel like, for some people, if they feel like that's that natural next step, you know, so not everybody's marriage material. Not everybody's gonna get married. Not everybody's, you know what I mean? But if that's their choice of life, we're going to be happy together. We're going to have a commonwealth marriage because we've been together for 10 years in the same bed. So, you know what I mean? I mean,
you need to know your
even if we're going back to the BIBLE, there was no ceremony for a while before people were calling each other husband and wife. It was an understanding. And, you know, so I do feel as though it's still, you know, it's Christians.
It was a whole lot of ceremonies in the Bible. They had to hold the sheets, make sure you was a virgin. Nobody getting married.
That's so true. I think for me, I want to know that you're responsible before going into a relationship and going into a marriage. So I want to see that you got your own place. Whether it's renting, whether it's buying or whatever. I want my own place. I want you to have your own place. Because I want to be able I want to know that you can take care of a household. I want to know that you can pay the bills on time. I want to know that when I come home, I ain't going to have my lights out. I want to see at night.
Right.
So I want to be able to see that before. Exactly. Before we get into the marriage. So I want to see that you can take care and manage what you got before you
But that doesn't necessarily require living together. And
you know, a lot of people, especially where your background is, like, I know where I come from, you're not supposed to, technically not supposed to be moving out of your parents' house until you get married. They don't want that. So me moving out and being on my own, when I got out of college and I wasn't coming home and had an apartment, was an abomination. They couldn't understand why she wants to live on her own. We can take care of her. What's the problem? You can save all this money that you're making for a house as opposed to spending $100 a month, $200 a month on rent, which makes sense. But at the same time, that whole independence piece, you know, and just like, you know, I think a lot of guys now, and it's so funny because, like I said, with my current boyfriend, you know, I ask things like, well, why do you love me or whatever, and you know, I'm expecting, I want to hear, you know, this was in the beginning. It was in the beginning.
I love you because in the bottom of my soul, it's Simone and I wanted that. I got, you're very smart, you have a good job, and I was like, the logistics. I think what happens is, like when she said earlier about to teach me how to love you, sometimes we get in a relationship with somebody and we want them to bring their individual love, but when it's not all we expect it to be, we say, okay, I don't like the way you love me, so how about you start loving me the way I would love you?
That's the case of being in a relationship with yourself.
But you know what? That happens to me on Valentine's Day. I wanted the candles in the hotel room and the whatever, so I did that for him. And he wanted to go to the spa, and so that's what he did for me. So it was very, just like, well, you know, we both had Valentine's Day. You know?
When it comes to like what you want in a relationship and all of that kind of stuff and knowing what you need, what would you consider a deal breaker for you? Like, not marriage, because, you know, that's something totally deeper when it comes to divorce, stuff like that. But you're in a long-term relationship, and you say, if this, I'm out. Like, there's nothing to talk about. There's nothing, you know, what is a deal breaker for you to say, this is it? This is it.
Well, me, personally, if you cheat on me. That I've experienced that way too much in my past. So, like I already told my husband, I don't care. You come home, you say, I slipped up, bye. Love you, bye. I mean, of course, you know, you put your hands on me, it's always going to escalate to another problem, a little psycho, a little deranged. So it just never ends with me. I'm like a stalker. But, you know, outside of that, no, seriously, he's already got the numbers. He's already got our numbers written down. He's like, family, if anything happens to me, you know who did it. But it's just, to me, because I've been hurt too much with that there's no excuse of that.
Okay.
You know, so that's just my personal.
Right. What
See, I'm very forgiving, and I just can't get over it. Like, you know, you can cuss my mama out, and I still might be like, oh, you know, but at the same time, I mean, here's my thing. One, you don't take responsibility for whether it be your kids, whether it be your household.